Thank you, Carl. Welcome, everyone. I'm Kay Bartmann, and first and foremost, I would like to thank absolutely everyone in this room, audience, speakers, sponsors, volunteers, and of course, Carl and his entire team. Truly well done. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us. But most importantly, because of all of you, events like this don't just happen. They rely on people coming together, showing up, and investing their time and energy. Without you, none of this would be possible. So thank you for showing up, and especially showing up in person. And we all know, what has been going on with COVID, etc. I don't have to tell the story, so it's even more important to have face-to-face meetings and to have more of that on a daily basis. So thank you for all of you. We need more of this. Thank you, Carl. I'm Kay, and I'm the Director of Court Experiences and Special Events at Racquet X. And it is the largest all-racket sports festival in the world. It's each March. We launched it last year for the very first time. Because of pickleball, paddle, and other racket sports, we thought it would be a very cool idea, and here we are. The second edition was amazing. We had 125 plus vendors, 12 plus courts. It was packed, 300 plus hours from sponsors, professional players. So I hope you guys get a chance to check it out next year. And actually, tomorrow we're launching a city series as well. So I'm going straight to Philadelphia right after this one. So please check it out. Now enough, let's shift to today's topic. This session is titled Building Insights and Best Products for New Facilities. So very, very important, especially with the new clubs, facilities, pickleball and paddle, coming together in the United States, but globally as well. Most importantly is the 5 leaders here that are going to walk you through and give their insights in today's session. Smartest investments, best tools, and most important decisions in the process. I would like to start with Jeff on my left side, Jeff McClure from Brite Court. They're headquartered in Pompano Beach. I think most of you know them because of various things, but especially the Miami Open is for me what I know them for. And the courts are fantastic. They also have done over 8,500 projects since 1981. And they recently just did a new acquisition, which will be announced soon, and Brite will be nationwide. So Jeff, please give a few words.
I want to echo the words of you and the appreciation, Carl. Thank you for having us here. Looking forward to contributing any information we can provide as far as facility design and considerations. And thank you, Kay. Perfect.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's continue with Andres. Andres Roberto is the founder and CEO of Play by Point. I have no idea, I should probably know this, how many clubs you have. The number is way too big. And it keeps on growing, so congratulations, and we're very fortunate to have you in this room. So thank you. And I believe you started and founded it in 2015. You're based in Miami, so locally, and I would love to hear more, but we're going to get into this. You're known for being at sports clubs, handling tasks like point of sale bookings, member management, etc., etc. So please give a few words.
No, thank you everyone for coming by. Thanks Carl and the team and for putting this together. We've been, a lot of us here have a lot of years in industry experience, and it's wonderful that today we have a large audience and these kinds of events put together, because 8 years ago it was non-existent. So that's great for us and great for the industry as well, which is most important.
Thank you, Andres. Nice to have you here. Now, on his left side, we do not have David Fox, but we have his cousin, Daniel Fox. David sends his best. And Daniel is the International Sales Director, which will be guiding us through the session as well. And Save My Play is the company, fairly new company, just founded a couple years ago. And they've had tremendous increase, with signing the USTA, and they have already over 1,000 courts. It's a camera system, AI-based court analytics and player performance tracking, based in New York. So please, Daniel.
Yeah, same thing. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Kai. Events like this are really important for the community. So really glad to be here.
Thank you. Now we have on the left, next to Daniel, we have Cameron Linder. He's the founder and CEO of Pickleball Insurance program. So please give a warm welcome to Cameron Linder. I believe you've been in this industry for many, many years as well. And obviously, it would be amazing to hear some of your insights as well, which we're going to get into. I think it's very, very important, especially with the things happening in the pickleball industry these days. So please, Cameron.
Sure. So I'm actually second generation in the specialty insurance business. My dad started in not this particular niche, but in the bowling niche back in 1989. And today we're the largest insurer of bowling alleys in the country. In fact, I go immediately from here to the Bowl Expo in Washington, D.C. So over 600 bowling centers nationwide. And today on the pickleball program, 200 pickleball clubs across the country. So one thing just to note about the way we're structured, it's not just like a typical brokerage. We're vertically integrated. We operate in a space where we not only handle the sales side of things, but also the underwriting, the claims handling, and the loss control inspections. For us, it's really a partnership. It's not just selling you a product.
Amazing. Thank you, Cameron, for being here. Now, last but not least, we have Gary Fowler on the very left. He's co-founder of Brite Court Lighting. I'm sure you have seen or even played on some of the courts where you can see his amazing lights. He's been in this industry for many, many years, 20 plus years, and more than 1,200 projects. It's amazing. So thank you, Gary, for being here.
Thanks, Kai. 25 years ago, I walked into a tennis facility. I was in the energy conservation business, and I looked at the lighting, and I started looking at and asking what there was for energy efficiency or better lighting, and it didn't exist. And having a tennis background and a passion for it, I took on the mission to establish and develop lighting to better the sport. And here we are 25 years later, more than 1,200 facilities in the racket and paddle industry, which includes tennis, to racquetball, squash, badminton, pickleball, padel. We've worked across all platforms, and what's the fortunate part of my life's work is that we've been able to go behind the curtain of all these facilities and see how they operate and see how we can help them better their business. Because at the end of the day, I think there's not a person in the room that doesn't agree that player experience is going to be key to the survival of this industry and any one of us in it. And that's our focus, is on creating that best player experience. Thanks, Kai.
Amazing.
I also want to say I've been a part of World Pickleball Convention since its inception, as well as Racquet X. And I want to say that everyone in this room has sat in this room today. My 25 years in this business, these are the best days that I have seen in terms of being able for people to come in and learn about this business. And there has not been a forum like this in the tennis industry or any other industry that I've seen connected to this like these two organizations. So I think everybody here should walk away with something of value anyway.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's open up. This is an open question to all of you. I think is very important, especially with the new facilities. And we want to give the folks in this room here the real building insights. What products and services are must-haves when building or renovating a racket sports facility, and why?
We'll start with the obvious one.
I think Jeff knows the obvious one.
And, well,
Court?
but they have to have insurance before they have courts. Yeah. So I'll go first.
Why do I need an insurance?
Well, because you can get sued over anything at any time, right? In most of these cases, people are coming into this space, they're coming from some typically white-collar industry. They've never run a small business before. And if you've not run a small business before, you'll recognize that running a small business is kind of like driving around with a target on your back and some attorney's chasing you around trying to jump off the billboard to get you before you can get away from them. Being a small business owner is in some way or another constantly being under assault, especially when you're a small business owner in a space where you foster an inherently risky activity. Pickleball, what is it? You've heard this before, you're sticking 4 highly competitive people into a small space, handing them a miniature hatchet, and then asking them to dink a hard plastic object at each other's faces. Like, what could go wrong? Okay, you're going to get sued. And you go, oh, the waiver. Well, they can challenge the waiver. It still costs money to defend yourself. So insurance is one of those products that people like to look at as if it's a commodity. I'm going to buy it like I buy gasoline. Ooh, it's 10 cents cheaper over here. Except that it's a custom, complex product that is different for everybody that purchases it. And you rely on it for the life and death of your business. Because without insurance functioning the way that you expect, you're one lawsuit or one disaster away from bankruptcy. Because the only alternative to insurance is taking a giant pile of cash, sticking it in what we hope is a fireproof closet, and letting it do nothing, which all your finance bros will tell you is the worst way to use money. So insurance is critically important, and people hate it because it contains these surprises, they think, but ultimately it comes from the fact that the devil is in the details. And if you don't have a partner to walk you through those details that knows what you do and what you face as a risk, then you'll find what I've found on competitor policies, which is exclusions for bodily injury to sporting participants. And I'm just going to let that hang there for a second because that's the thing you're worried about. But I find it all the time. So that's why it's important, because you can't let it be a surprise. If it's a surprise, you're going to end up suing everybody in the transaction, and that's certainly not why I'm in business. But you have to have insurance before you start, because the moment you take possession of a facility, your landlord's going to demand it, and the moment you step foot on a facility, something can go wrong. Something that you're not responsible for, but that you're going to get sued
Cameron,
for anyways.
walk us through what can go wrong, especially now with the pickleball, the new pickleball clubs, paddler as well, of course, but most of these clubs have multi-sports. With pickleball, what do you see the biggest issues are that facility owners are overseeing? Is it noise? Is it complaints? Is it, I just got hit in the eye? Is there anything specific that you see these days that people oversee?
Look, there's a number of things that you wouldn't expect, okay? I have a claim right now of a little child who was accidentally hit in the face with a paddle, okay? Total accident. But people expect you to pay their medical bills, even when they're responsible, okay? The child didn't sign a waiver, so we don't have that argument, right? So that's a simple example. I have 2 claims right now where the landlord's sewage line broke down and resulted in the courts being damaged. And in one case, they have to dig up the entire court just to fix the pipe.
Wow.
So these are things that you don't think about that can happen. I've got a case right now, this is just a good example, it's on a bowling alley, where a guy parked his truck and trailer next to the facility, and he was a flooring contractor, and the chemicals inside his truck spontaneously combusted, ignited a propane tank, which blew up the trailer, which caught the bowl on fire, which is now a $7 million claim.
Wow.
These are not the things you think will happen, but it's crazy things that happen. Obviously in pickleball, your number one injury is an injury while playing pickleball, whether it's somebody who runs into a pole, which didn't move, or somebody, hits another person, or we all saw the video several months ago of one player kicking another in the neck and he collapses down, like crazy things. I'm an organizer of chaos. That's my job as an insurance guy.
Yeah. What's your average cost per year?
Average cost. Everybody wants to know that question. Here's the thing about the insurance industry, okay? Quoting insurance and dealing nationally in insurance is like negotiating with 50 different independent countries, okay? The rates differ by state. The risk profile differs by state. If you're in the state of Florida, you're kind of concerned about, hurricane. Well, that's super expensive here. If you're in Maryland, where the laws are actually really good and there's not a lot of property risk, the rates are super cheap. So I can't really answer the question. What I should tell you is that generally speaking, with property, liability, workers' comp, and some of these other things that your landlord may require, you should expect an insurance premium that is somewhere between 1.25% and 2% of your gross revenues. Okay? If you're in New York, New Jersey, or Florida, it's higher than that typically. Okay? But that's a good-ish barometer. But you can save money all day long, and when they deny a claim, you won't brag to anybody about how much money you saved. So the devil's in the details.
Very fair. And
I'll let everybody else talk now.
Yeah, let's keep going. I'm going to make the example. I'm a club. I'm opening up very soon, and I'm debating, should I have lights? What kind of lights? Gary, walk me through what are things people oversee when they're opening up a new club or when they're renovating a club?
In the racket sports industry, you're going to find that.
You just got to put it up.
In the racket sports industry, you're going to find that lighting is the number one complaint that you're going to be addressed with from your players and your customers. In fact, look no further than go look at other clubs in your area. Go on Google and read the reviews. Go on social media and see what the social media warriors have written. And when you find criticism of facilities, you'll find that lighting is often one of the first and one of the biggest ones that you'll see repeated. And then it becomes a cancer. But more importantly is that there's a very large name in pickleball that's built a bunch of facilities, and they came to me. They realized that when they built their facilities, they didn't build them for the anchor customer. And who's the anchor customer? Well, the anchor customer is the person who comes in who plays 1, 2, 3, 4 days a week, and pickleball is a big part of their life. Those are the guys that are going to repeat, and they're going to come back. They're going to talk about your facility. They're hanging out with their friends who play. But more importantly is that 3, 4, 5 years from now, as this industry saturates, and if you look at just the franchise industry, how many franchises have been sold and the projection of where these are going to collect and how far apart it's going to be. The tennis industry never had to deal with this, but the pickleball industry is going to experience something that the tennis industry hasn't experienced, and that's going to be saturation. So 3, 4, 5 years from now, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, your survival is going to be based upon the player experience, and lighting comes to be a part of that. I don't know if anybody saw about 4 weeks ago, there's a little story that came out in the national news called iGate. And it was Ben Johns and Colin Johns. They walked out of the middle of an MLP tournament because of the lighting, forfeited their purses, walked out in the middle and says, we can't play here. We can't play in this tournament. And
you're done after that.
You're done after that.
Done.
Yeah. And in the tennis industry, it's very common for private clubs, as we will find here. You're going to have sanctioned events that are sanctioned by different organizations. Right now, it's pretty loose as far as how they're going to look at your facility to see if you're worthy of a sanctioned event. But I think as time goes on, especially with something as big as this that hits the national news, referring to lighting in pickleball, there's probably going to be some oversight on that in the future. And by not paying attention to that now could affect you in the future as well. Lighting basically comes in and plays a big role. I'll say one thing. One of the biggest racket sports operators in North America, they're based out of the Northeast, but multiple facilities in one of the most competitive racket sports markets in the world. And I've been working with them for 20 years, and I asked them several months ago, I said, what is your secret to success in the most competitive racket sports market in the world? And he says, Gary, it's 3 things. We do 3 things better than everybody else. 1 is lighting, number 2 is court surface, and number 3 is HVAC, heating and air conditioning. Because those are the 3 things that, in the forefront, matter to the player. That
fundamentals.
They've got great lighting to play their game, because lighting is just a piece of equipment, right? And then the court surface itself, and then that they're comfortable in the ambient environment. Those are the 3 things that they really notice and they care about at the end of the day.
And Gary, also very important, you actually told me some of the stories yesterday, and I think it's very important to say, yes, lighting, totally agree, I think all agree, but you also have to do it the right way. So for example, what happens if I paint the walls differently? What do you see there? Have you seen and talked to some where they had issues with that?
So one of the biggest questions I get now and we see a big name in pickleball that's painting their walls black or painting their ceilings black. It's a cool environment when you walk in and say, wow, this looks great, right? But from a player's perspective, it's bad. It's not good. And here's why. Is that what you want to do is that, look, most players would rather play outside during daylight. That is the best visual environment to play the sport, right? So now we come in, and if you go downstairs into the convention center, you've got a black ceiling up there. Understand that our eyes require a visual surface in the foreground for us to judge speed and distance. And so when we paint something black and we create a cave, we take that away. And to a pickleball player, that is critical because they need to judge the distance of that ball and the speed of the ball, trajectory, even the bounce angles, because it affects your hand-eye coordination and it also affects your footwork. So what you want to, and the pickleball industry doesn't have a model. At least the pickleball industry thinks it doesn't have a model to mirror itself after. But at the end of the day, the standards for pickleball are no different than the standards for tennis. And in the 1,200 indoor tennis facilities in North America, you won't find any, number one, that have black ceilings, extremely dark walls, and that combination. And most importantly, you won't see a single tennis facility that uses this warehouse downlighting that we're seeing in 90% of the pickleball facilities today. It's not good for the playability of the game. And those are going to be critical elements moving forward as far as your success and how you're being viewed. And it's important that when people are coming to you to play at your facility, you want to have a story to say why you want to play here, how our facility is going to better your game.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary. And let's keep going with the fundamentals, actually. Jeff, I think it's very important to also understand in the recent years, how it changed the court surface. And, when a club wants to open up shop and wants to build a new court, walk us through what are the challenges and what people oversee as well.
Absolutely. To piggyback off of Gary a little bit there, too, and some of the presentations before us, it really depends on the owner's model. Number one, are they taking over an existing facility and repurposing it like a storefront, or are they building from the ground up? When you're building from the ground up, you have a lot more control in what you want to do, given that you have the right budget as well to do it right, as opposed to retrofitting, if you will, or converting a Saks Fifth or a Bed Bath & Beyond into a pickleball facility. You have certain limitations. Cameron mentioned poles or columns that support the ceiling so you have the proper height to be able to play a sport indoors. The lighting that Gary was talking about, most of them are from the store. It's a investment that the owner doesn't maybe necessarily want to incur because he's like, oh, it already has lights, I don't need to worry about that. And you get those direct lit courts as opposed to indirect lighting. Gary, I'm assuming you were more referencing the fixtures so that the lights aren't affecting.
No, I was referring to more of what's happening is just the warehouse lighting, the down lights that you're seeing that are just hung above the court and aimed down. And those create a certain issue as it is because we're talking about the playability of the game and understanding how lighting affects the playability of the game. So every LED chip, so in these pictures up here, the LED, you've ever seen the small LED chips. Those chips have, not to get too technical, a native 120-degree beam angle. Okay? So imagine you got a little flashlight, you hold it a little over the floor here, you get a small circle of light, you raise the flashlight up, the circle gets bigger. But what doesn't change is the output of that light. And the same thing with all the lighting you're seeing on this down lighting. My point on this is that LED light comes out at 120 degrees, so it's a cone shape. So what happens is you put the lights high enough and you illuminate the floor. So you walk into the facility. My first impression when I walk into a facility, you see how well the floor is illuminated, then I may base my judgment on how good the lighting is there. Well, when in fact that, because this cone shape of light is that it's very narrow at the top and widens as it goes down, most of the court is not illuminated, the airspace of the court, so the ball is not illuminated. And that's part of the downside. And I really encourage people to look no further than the tennis industry on the lighting standards in tennis, because you never see these standards being used today in the tennis industry, and it's for good reason. In fact, go to a local tennis facility, talk to local tennis pros, and talk to them about lighting strategies, because they have it dialed in. And this industry, frankly, is really missing that boat, and it's going to hurt a lot in 4 or 5 years. We're getting 2 to 3 calls a month right now from clubs that have been open a year or 2 or more, and they're saying, hey, look, our members are complaining about it, we're losing our members, or somebody's coming down the street, they have designed engineered court lighting, and they can't compete with that, so they're saying, hey, I need help, I need to replace it. Here's the problem, though, is that once your facility's built out, you got the fencing in, you got the court surfaces down, it's going to cost you 4 times as much just from a labor perspective to go in and change that lighting. So this decision has to be made now. And in most cases, what I'm seeing is that everybody's looking at the budget. They're going on Amazon and buying lighting, or they're buying imported lighting that's just dirt cheap, and they're trying to compare it to engineered lighting for the sport. And so they're making those decisions based upon today's money spent, but the revenues that they could be losing in the future are not part of that equation.
You have to do the fundamentals right, and I wanted to ask you, Jeff, also, because we talked about the
Let
wall.
me say one thing. Kai comes from the tennis industry. Kai spent his life in tennis.
Absolutely.
And Kai can address that. The downlighting that's being used in pickleball doesn't exist in the tennis industry, period. It's just not there.
Totally, yes.
Going back to the fundamentals, exactly that same thing, starting with the court and the surface, which I think you were trying to get back to. The foundation is what matters the most, right?
Correct.
And so we talk about, again, inheriting an existing surface and trying to turn it into something that it wasn't designed for. So the flooring of a store is not necessarily the best floor meant for pickleball, where you need uniformity and bounce and a nice smooth surface, or having maintaining planarity, no low spots, that kind of stuff. When you inherit a store, you inherit a lot of problems. And if you're focused on trying to get it open quick and the ROI, and not understanding that the surface is your foundation and going to impact the playing experience that brings people back in, you're missing the point. So if you're inheriting a floor, make sure you do the proper concrete restoration, check for planarity, patching any low spots, cutting out any unneeded utilities that were left there. For example, I've converted a Publix, what used to be a Publix grocery store, into 4 pickleball courts, and you had all these different drain cleanouts and everything. We ended up cutting out the entire floor and pouring back in a new 10-inch slab to make sure that it was done right.
Do it right, guys. Spend the money up front. You're going to end up with a much, much bigger pain. And can the color of the court, sorry, last question there, the color of the court, can it be any color? Do you recommend any colors? Because you see more and more funky stuff out there, of course. And then also, if I open up my club, should it be, now you see more and more clay courts on the pickleball side, do you recommend them to do both or just hard courts?
If you're doing an indoor facility, clay is going to be very difficult to maintain.
Absolutely, it's a pain.
I wouldn't recommend going that direction. Not that you can't play pickleball on clay. There's plenty of people trying to push that and assist with growing the sport. More so in like the country club and city setting, where there's dilapidated courts or the need for pickleball. So an easy conversion is if the court's already built, as opposed to building new financially. But from a color perspective, much like painting the walls, yes, there are specific there are certain colors you don't want to use. I can tell you, when we were trying to narrow down that the Miami Open blue that you see, that teal color, we went through 240 different shades of that teal to
240
to number one meet, you know, Steve Ross's expectations of being that Miami Dolphin blue or green, but also to be able to see the tennis ball on the surface and pick it up, because
Very important.
the playability is the most important piece to it.
Right. And all right, so we have our fundamentals. We have lighting, the court, of course.
I'll interrupt.
Go.
New facility, I'm already stressed out about all the decisions as a business owner I've had to make. Insurance, lighting, courts, and what I'd like to say when it comes to the software piece, that's every demo and every new presentation, it's the easiest decision you'll make in your whole process, right? And that's kind of where we come in. I think the takeaway from hearing all this great experience is that experience matters to some point. This is
100%.
This is a new industry. When we started 10 years ago, I was the same thought. Operating a tennis court, tennis club, easy, right? Just booking time and space. Well, I was in for a ride. 10 years later, we're still learning, we're still building, and we're still implementing new features, new functionality in that case. But the takeaway where we come in, I think it's the fun part, right? And the software plays, you know, it's part of the fundamental piece. It's not everything, but we are what makes part of the experience frictionless.
It's going to keep me at the club.
It's going to keep you at the club, and you want a trusted partner that will assist, respond, and make your life easier. Because when things go right, nothing, but then when there's a small challenge, you want your software partner to be responsive. But most importantly, you want your staff to have an enjoyable experience, right? And you want your players to have an enjoyable experience before they get to the court. Once you get to the court, our job is to get them to the court. Once they're there, then it has to flow through with the other fundamental pieces. Lighting, making sure they don't fall down. And then that's, you know, we're going to keep it short for time. And that segues to how do you keep retention? How do you keep a fun, engaging process, right? We help with those tools, with marketing automations and a lot of that. And I'll kind of hand it over to Save My Play, and that's kind of where the video comes in and all that process.
And Andres, I think it's also important to say, so I just opened up my club, or I'm going to open up my club academy, and I think it's very, very important to understand you're not just going to have new visitors come through your door tomorrow. Now I invested so much money, now I need to make sure that visitors and attendees come in, and someone like Play by Point is going to help you a lot, that you're going to be on the platform. Walk us a little bit through what are the things that you can help with new clubs and you know, clubs that are renovating. But this platform, and then obviously we're going to talk about Save My Play, is we're very fortunate that today we have those technology tools.
Yeah, so, you know, it's not only court booking, and that's what it was previously. Today, this is your digital platform. This is while your revenue comes through. So you need to make sure that all your billing, credit card processing is handled effectively, but we cover the whole gamut, right? And you need to think through what your business model is, and we will empower it. Not only from membership management, but also from court allocation management, managing your pros, and then also assisting with your programming so that the system can handle correctly, you know, junior academies, your open plays,
Absolutely.
all the different formats and functions that you have. And then the most important piece as well is your reporting, right? Once now you're operating the club, you're up and running, and you need to be nimble. Each geography is different, each city is different, each community is different. And you might come with an idea, with a plan, and, you know, like the...
Make sure you understand your customers. And then, of course, I want to give the word to Daniel Fox from Save My Play. And you work with a camera system. Walk us through what are the great features that make sure that the customers stays at the club, comes back, and you really enhance the customer experience.
Sure, yeah. I think everything from, instant replays while players are on the court, you have a great play, they're immediately able to pull that up and watch it back in real time. Coaches use that a lot for analysis. We hear from a lot of facilities that players love hanging out at the club after their session now as they get their full session recordings back in their email, and they sit down, have a beer, or have some food, and they're watching all of that back. I think tournaments these days, live streaming has just become an expectation. I think, all clubs should be offering live streaming for tournaments and things like that.
And line calling as well, what you guys are working on is terrific. I wish every tournament would have it out there. It's just a pain, especially with juniors.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's huge. We have players every day able to pull up an instant replay, zoom in, and you could see very clearly, is it in or out?
I wish I had that when I was playing. I think all of us. So that's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
Is there any quick question from the audience? Raise your hand now and we can answer it. Please. Yes.
So I've heard several sessions here, and I'm actually shocked that no one's talked about noise deadening in the club. It's the biggest complaint that most players have. If you're playing at not even the 3-5 level, but you start communicating with your partner, and if you've got a dozen courts and all of them are being used, you can't even hear each other talking to each other. So I think noise deadening fabrics, either on the walls or the ceilings, is a necessity for any club that's got more than probably 8 courts.
Right.
Just real quick on that. A lot of people, when they hear the noise issue, there's all the headlines about HOAs suing outdoor pickleball courts. Most people getting into this business today are mostly on the indoor side. So that's not really the major risk that I'm seeing. But from the standpoint, my comment mostly is based on the quality of play issue here. Because again, I come from bowling. Bowling is also a very loud sport. And the bowling industry had to figure out how to dampen the noise in order to create an environment that was pleasant to then be social, to then incentivize spectating, to then sell them food and drink while they're spectating and while they're hanging out. So I applaud highlighting the issue, because even from a business standpoint, I think that this becomes an important factor as time goes on, because you're not going to make that transition to additional revenue streams, I don't believe, to whether it's corporate events, to again, the food and beverage angle. I think the industry's a little early for that right now, but if you're stepping in that direction, you have to first create the environment that is conducive to having a nice conversation with another human being. And so how to do that, of course, is the challenge, but I think it's an important issue that we're not quite paying attention to yet.
Jeff? Riff, I deal with it quite a bit on the outdoor court level. We have multiple different acoustic blankets and sound barriers that you can hang on the fence to help prevent noise traveling to neighbors and disruption of houses. The one facility I can think of that we have done, or it was actually more so inherited for noise control indoors, would be Renee Pratt's Diadem Pickleball Complex down in Coconut Creek. The space that they leased was actually an old auditorium, and so it already had the acoustic panels hanging from the ceiling, and they have 9 courts there. My company holds their annual Christmas party there. We have 50 plus people on those courts and in there, and noise actually isn't an issue from a conversation, but that doesn't mean every other facility is going to already inherit that positive.
Yeah.
Correct. Most are storefronts, like I was saying.
Yeah. Every facility is so different. I had the luxury on a flagship project up in Long Island that had concrete ceilings, and the ceilings were rather low, and there was a pretty large budget build, and I was fortunate enough to be involved in that to the point where they brought in the large acoustical engineering firm out of New York, out of Manhattan, to advise on that, and I was able to really unpeel that a little bit and to see where we were going as far as the acoustical management, right? And clearly we had a lot of discussion because it affects lighting, is spray foam on the ceilings, right? But frankly, for most facilities, that's not a cost-effective solution, and that's what's really holding the sport down right now in terms of that development, is the cost side of it, because you can easily bury yourself in that cost. I'm seeing out there some very simple things. Look, Pickler's done a great job with their baffling system at the ceiling, right? I went into a facility, a Bed Bath & Beyond. They had an upstairs area that just echoed terribly. And they put carpet down around the courts. And it made a major difference. And it was a very cost-effective solution. I got a big 26-court facility in Seattle going in right now, and they're carpeting all the aisleways. And I anticipate that's going to be very practical, affordable, and it's going to help. And look, there's no magic bean. There's nothing that's going to fix that problem. It's always going to be there. The problem is not so much for the players, I don't think. It's more for your staff that you're going to have to deal with, because they're going to have to deal with it on a daily basis all day long. For me to go in and deal with it for an hour or two, it's not a big deal, right? Right. But unless you're going to put something that's basically diffusing that or blocking it, bringing it back in, and again, the challenge is going to be what's the cost-effective solution? And right now, it just simply doesn't exist, because look, the people doing the development, they know it's a hot button, and they know whoever comes out first has something proprietary, and which means that they put their own price on it, and you have nothing to compare it to. So I think for the next year or two, and I know Carl at USAP's, they've been putting a lot of attention on managing the noise, and it's going to be a while. We'll see. And even the 3M acoustic panels. In fact, if you go to 3M, you look at the acoustic panels that you see in office buildings, they actually have great acoustical properties. If you could find a way to suspend those up there, if you have the right ceiling, that is one thing that can help with noise.
Thank you. And I think we all agree we can continue with these conversations absolutely forever. Thank you again, Carl. Thank you for your entire team. And we definitely have to cut it now. I have to go to the airport, go to Philadelphia. We're launching our City Series tomorrow. And thank you. Enjoy your time. Thank you, Carl, again. Really fantastic job. And of course, thank you to our panelists. Most importantly, go make sure that you speak to the right experts. They're right here. Make sure you invest the right money up front, because it's going to be a pain afterwards. Thank you, Carl.
Thanks very much, Kay. Appreciate it. Great panelists, great topics. We could go on forever, and we'll probably have to extend this conference in years to come. And Racquet X is moving to Broward Convention Center, by the way. So if you've been to the one in Miami Beach last year, they're moving to Broward next year. We're always a part of that, too, and they do a great job with Robin down there. Thanks, guys, for coming up. If you want to talk to any of these guys, now's the time to do it. And that's why they're here, to do some networking out there. And great topics. We've got the power of women in pickleball.